it's a slippery slope where they keep expanding the parameters. So we were living in a potential, what did they call it? Like a torrential downpour or whatever it was going to be, an atmospheric river. We were waiting for so we were in a state of emergency for a potential atmospheric river, whatever that is. Yeah. So they'll just keep broadening those powers.
What they used to call rain.
Right? Emergencies to keep you suspended forever.
That's exactly right. And we've seen efforts to create other infectious related public health emergencies. I mean, monkeypox, that's pretty short lived, but there was, the WHO declared a monkeypox emergency. Right. There are climate advocates, who have advocated for rolling lockdowns to deal with the climate emergency. So this reframing of other issues as public health issues, one of the reasons they're doing that is precisely because that health-related state of emergency has proven to be a useful fulcrum to gain power. Mm-hmm. So everything from racism to climate now can be considered a public health issue, and then at some point we can declare it a public health emergency.
Mm-hmm. So where do we go from here? How, in your profession, where we want to get information for ourselves about how to remain healthy and strong and vigilant, where do we go as everyday citizens to get that information to protect ourselves and our children?
So I'll mention again the Brownstone Institute. I'll mention some of the independent journalists on Substack, Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, and others are doing great work there. Paul Thacker, Marian Damasi are independent health journalists that have, I think, really excellent reporting on health-related issues, evidence-based. So go to alternative sources like that, find podcasters like Nicole Peterson and others who are having conversations with people outside of the controlled, I will call it, I don't even want to call it the mainstream because it's artificially created by censorship. It's a kind of controlled funnel or a controlled center. You got to work a little harder to stay informed and to find sources of credible information, but they're out there. The second thing that people can do, because, our audience may be thinking, well, I don't have a microphone like Nicole or Aaron. I'm not part of a major censorship case at the Supreme Court. What can I do? And I think the first thing that I would tell all Americans is start noticing that when you are self-censoring, because once they can get us to self-censor, that's much more effective than any external carrots and sticks that they use to shut people up. It's not to say that you should, in every social context, say every thought that comes into your head all the time. No, there is discretion and there is context-based speech and so forth. But I think one of the things that happened, especially during COVID, was that people started biting their tongue and just not saying things that were patently obvious to them because they sensed that I'm not supposed to say this, right? And sometimes all it takes is for one person to, raise his or her hand and say, no, I'm not buying it. I mean, it just, that doesn't add up, right? That what you said last month completely is contradicting what you're saying this month. You're allowed to change your mind, but you haven't explained to me why you've changed your mind, or you just expect me to follow along like a mindless lemming. No, I want an explanation. I want an answer. So ask inconvenient questions. Sometimes if someone just jumps into a conversation at the dinner table or in a social context, it breaks the ice, and other people can then feel empowered to say, yeah, no, I agree with Aaron. I mean, I that always seemed like nonsense to me. And, I do think censorship is a bad idea, actually, and it's not the right way to handle disinformation or whatever the issue is that you're talking about. So I think all of us have a role in society to do that. If you get a resistant, probably 10 to 15% of the population that just refuses to go along with authoritarian or totalitarian measures, then it's game over, right? They need a very high degree of compliance to make this work. And unfortunately, we had some dissidents during COVID that I think got us out of it sooner than we otherwise would have. We didn't have a sufficient critical mass of dissidents to stop much of the nonsense from happening, but we did slow some of it, and we did kind of get out of it and recover from it, I think, more quickly than we would have. But it doesn't take a supermajority. It takes a strong, grounded, but firm minority to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to go along with that. And so that's what Americans can do. Inform yourself, understand what's going on, notice in social contexts when you're not speaking your mind, and, take some risks, try to be daring in those contexts and see what happens. People, I think cowardice is contagious. Fear is contagious. We saw that, descend upon us in March of 2020, but courage is also contagious. And sometimes you have to be, the first one through the wall. And as it said in Moneyball, one of my favorite movies, the first one through the wall always gets bloody. So it's not easy. But other people will follow if they see you taking the lead.
And what about, and I totally agree with everything you just said.